Hello, my name is Russell Feldhausen, and it is my honor to serve as the Vice President of the All Souls Board of Trustees. As required by Article 4 of our Constitution, we must hold an annual meeting of our society in May each year. This year's annual meeting will be Sunday, May 17th at 1 o'clock p.m. The meeting itself will be held online using Zoom, the same software we use for our coffee and conversation sessions throughout the week. Since we are using Zoom, you'll be able to attend that meeting from home using a computer, tablet, or smartphone, or you can even call in using a regular telephone. The purpose of that meeting will be to adopt an annual budget and elect incoming members of the Board of Trustees and various church committees. We have chosen to postpone several other agenda items to a special meeting to be called later this year when we may meet again in person. You can find more information about the annual meeting, including the agenda and a proposed annual budget, in our church newsletter, on the website, or by contacting the church or any board member. We hope to see you there.
Nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. There's nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Love, love, There's nothing you can know that isn't known. There's nothing you can see that isn't shown. Nowhere you can be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. All you need is love. All together now. All you need is love. Everybody. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Love is all you need. Love is all you need.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Edwards, and I'm the music director here at All Souls. I'm coming to you this morning from my home studio in our basement. These are indeed very strange times we're living in. In my wildest imagination, I never dreamt we'd find ourselves presenting and celebrating Music Sunday through a screen, online, together but apart, that we would be encouraged to stay home, that events would be canceled, and that our choirs would not be able to sing. I miss seeing you every Sunday. I miss having choir rehearsals on Monday evenings. I'm in such denial that we can't gather. I can't even bring myself to remove choir rehearsals from my calendar. And yet, for the safety of our friends and neighbors and community members, here we are, each in our own homes, flattening the COVID-19 curve, but missing the connection, the fellowship, the joy that comes with making music together. Each year we celebrate music in the life of this congregation on the first Sunday in May. Ordinarily, the choir and I would be offering a large choral work to celebrate Music Sunday, and we will again. In November, to commemorate Kristallnacht, we will present Daniel McCullough's Holocaust Cantata, Songs from the Camps. For our music celebration today, you'll see and hear some of the wonderful music we've made together during past services and Music Sundays. The offering this morning will go to the church budget to help support the music and religious education programs. Please consider a thoughtful and generous donation to these vital programs, and instructions for giving will be in the chat dialogue throughout the service. Music plays a central role in the life of our congregation. Music rallies us to create a just world. It makes us dance. It makes us laugh and cry, sometimes at the same time. It twists our hearts and plays with our emotions. It calls us to great calm and beauty. It brings us inner joy and peace. Most importantly, music calls us to be in community together. Reverend Douglas Taylor puts it this way: "May there be times of gentle tones and soothing melodies. May there be rhythms upon which we can rely to rally our spirits at need. May there be teachers and bandmates and choir members, fans and good companions to call our best music out of us. May there be moments when we are transported, moments when we discover we are not playing the music so much as the music is flowing through us. The music is playing us." Every Sunday, music inspires us and calls us to make the world a better place. Today, we celebrate music in the life of our congregation. I am grateful for our music staff. Sarah, Shanna, Tom, and Darrington are such wonderful leaders in the choir. Sarah's guidance and direction with the children's choir is so wonderful, and Ruth is amazing with the bell choir. But most importantly, I thank the choir for their unfaltering dedication to making music for All Souls. I thank them all for their superior musicality. We continue to make music together as a congregation even though we are apart, today and every day. Let's make a joyful noise. Please join me in making that happen right now by lifting our voices in one of my favorite hymns, How can I keep from singing?
We begin this morning by lighting a candle of memory in honor of our longtime friend and member Courtney Perkins, who died Monday night. May his life be remembered as a blessing. We have fallen into the place where everything is music, says the poet Rumi. The strumming and the flute notes rise into the atmosphere, and if the whole world's harp should burn up, there will still be hidden instruments playing. We light our chalice this morning in recognition of all the music of creation, the music of nature, bird song and creek flow, the music we make, the melodies and instruments, the sound of voices, the hidden music of the spheres, the vibration at the heart of all that is. May we conduct our lives in harmony with the songs that surround us, and may our ears be ever open for the beauty of the hidden instruments, playing. If you have a chalice or a candle with you, I invite you to join me and light that flame where you are. I invite you to send a comment telling us all where you are participating. We will pause for a moment to watch where else the chalice is lit.
I light this chalice
to celebrate Unitarian Universalism.
This is the Church of the Open Mind.
This is the torch of the loving heart.
How?
This is the Church of the Helping Hand.
Together we care for our earth.
And work for peace and friendship in our world.
Now, let us speak once again the words of our covenant promise to one another in community. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our service continues now with a story for all ages about the music in each of us.
The Music in Me, written by Jane Pinchuk, illustrated by Brad Davies, forward by Bobby McFerrin, music by Sure Nice. Sam wanted to make music. He loved music. Music had been a part of his world ever since he was a baby. He watched his parents make music on the piano. They would play duets and sing as they filled the air with beautiful songs. Sam wanted to make music too, but when he sat at the piano and touched the keys, he heard blink, blank, blank. It didn't sound like music at all, only noise. Sam loved to watch his big brother Mike play in the high school marching band. He played the tuba and could make the most thrilling big sounds. Mike marched and played, and Sam would watch. He wanted to make big tuba music too. One day, Sam tried to play Mike's tuba. From the top, from the side, standing up of course, then he crawled underneath the tuba. It wibbled, it wobbled, and finally toppled over on poor Sam. When Sam's sister Michelle played the violin, he loved to watch her fingers pluck the strings as she filled the air with melody.
Her fingers look like little dancers,
he thought to himself. When he tried to pluck the strings, he didn't hear melody, he heard plink, plink. And when he bowed the violin, he heard squeak, squawk. As Sam watched the whole family make music, it all looked so easy for them, but he felt very left out. He was not part of their musical world. There didn't seem to be a single instrument that was just right for him.
I give up! I hate music! It's just too hard!
Sam stomped off to his room, threw himself on the bed, and cried himself to sleep. As he tossed and turned, he saw a magic music man standing before him. And the magic music man seemed to look a lot like Sam's dad. Sam scratched his head and said,
Do I know you? Have we met?
The magic music man answered,
It swings, it sings from year to year. It floats and waves into my ear. It moves, it grooves, it shakes the blues. It makes my toes tap in my shoes. What I'm talking about is the music in me. I'm in the music and the music's in me. It's all a beautiful symphony. Yep.
Suddenly, the magic music man turned around. But this time, he looked more like Sam's brother. He scratched his head and said,
Do I know you? Have we met?
The magic music man replied,
It booms, it zooms right from the heart. It keeps the rhythm of my art. It hums, it strums when I am sad. It is the friend I've always had. It twirls, it swirls me in a trance. It makes me want to sing and dance. It sings, it dings and gives me hope. It makes makes me sing into my soul.
The Magic Music Man spun around again with yet another trick, appearing to look a lot like Sam's sister. Sam scratched his head and said,
Do I know you? Have we met?
The Magic Music Man replied,
What I'm talking about is the music in me. I'm in the music and the music's in me. It's all a beautiful symphony. Yep. It sways, it plays just like I do. It plays and sways until it's through. It hops, it bops from place to place. It puts a smile upon my face. It's the music in me. It's the music in me. It's the music in me. Yep.
Sam followed the Magic Music Man as they marched, tapped, and swirled around the room together. And then he handed Sam a tambourine. Sam could feel the music everywhere, even inside of him. Finally, he understood that the music was in him all along, just waiting to come out. He danced, jumped, twirled, and sang,
I am a music-making machine. A hand clapping, chest clapping, toe tapping, mouth rapping, foot stomping, finger snapping, tambourine tapping, music-making machine.
Sam was the music, and the music was Sam. Then poof, the Magic Music Man was gone. Sam woke up and rubbed his eyes.
Wow, I must have been dreaming,
he thought. Then he felt something under his pillow. He flipped it over, and there was a tambourine with a note on it.
For Sam?
He picked it up, got out of bed, and began to make his own kind of tune. He could not stop. His whole family heard him and joined in. At long last, Sam understood. He just needed to look not outside, but in to find the music that was waiting for him.
It's the music in me. It's the music in me. Yep.
When I learned that one of the responsibilities of being a board member was to do a board ask for the offering, I kind of panicked. This was way outside my wheelhouse. And I shared that with Anthony, and he gave me the advice to just speak from my heart and talk about what All Souls means to me. So that's what I'm going to do. For many years, I attended a Southern Baptist church. I primarily attended because I was drawn to the worship service, the music ministry. The music director was a wonderful, talented guy, and we had 3 worship teams. So every third Sunday, your team would be up, and you would be up on the platform singing and ministering and just being part of this wonderful musical experience. However, the theology, the beliefs, the dogma of the Southern Baptist religion was not at all what I believed. It didn't align with my beliefs in any way. Well, a few ways, but most ways it didn't. So, yes, I frequently felt like a hypocrite. I'd be up there singing and praising and doing this, and I rationalized it in a way that worked for me. I felt that if anyone in the congregation, anyone in the audience was able to get some bit of comfort or peace or uplift from what I was singing, then that made it okay. And that worked for a while. Until June of 2015, when the Supreme Court ruled on same-sex marriage. I was really curious to know how this Baptist church would handle this new law. I had taken to only going every third Sunday, only the Sundays that I was up on the worship team, to church. And so the following Sunday after the Supreme Court ruling was not my worship team Sunday, but I went anyway because I wanted to know what the pastor would say. However, he didn't say a word about it that Sunday. The next Sunday was my worship team time, so I was there, and that's when he addressed it. And this pastor stated to his large congregation with many young people that there would never be a same-sex marriage performed in his church, or in that church. I was just overwhelmed with the profound knowledge that this was hurting an untold number of people in the congregation. That there were people sitting there listening to this, especially the young people, who were being told, you will never be good enough. You will never fit in here. You will never be able to be yourself and be a whole human in our congregation. So I made the decision to leave. I was gone out of the church for a couple months, and I was missing the worship team. That really was something that fed my soul. And I was having lunch one day with a dear friend whose son had been, I didn't know this, but she told me had been a section leader at All Souls at one point. And I was saying to her, I'd like to find a new church home, but I just don't know where to go. And she said, well, why don't you check out All Souls? I'm like, well, I've read about that organization, that church, and I do think theologically it's very aligned with my personal beliefs, but I don't think they have much of a music department. Sorry, Anthony. Well, she informed me I was very wrong, that Anthony Edwards was the music director. She told me about Stephen being a part of the worship team, or the section leader. So I decided to try it out. So the next Sunday, I visit All Souls. Very unlike me, I identified myself as a visitor that first Sunday. Also, extremely unlike me, I stayed for the Sunday plus lunch after church. And I sat at the table with Kendyl, and I'm assuming it was now that I realized the membership committee people, and they asked lots of questions and were very friendly and warm, and I shared with them that, the worship team part of my old church was something I was really missing. And they said, well, come to choir practice. It's Monday nights. Okay. So the very next night, I show up for choir practice. Meet Anthony and the rest of the gang, and we work on music, and I realized they were doing some fairly, complicated music for a church choir. So I asked the soprano section leader, do we have special rehearsals ever? How does the choir pull these works off? And she said, oh yes, we have occasional Saturday practices for about 3 hours, and Anthony's husband cooks us lunch. There were so many things right about that answer. And I knew I'd found my tribe. I have found All Souls to be nothing but welcoming. They've been very supportive. I find All Souls to be intellectually stimulating and spiritually uplifting. So I ask you today to join me in supporting All Souls in whatever way you can, with as much as you can, so that this organization, this incredible group of people, can continue to be the bright, shining light that they are in this city. Thank you. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
say together the words of dedication for our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
It may have been Plato long ago who declared music to be a moral law. He said music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, a charm to sadness, and life to everything. We know here and now, as much as ever, how music feels our heartbeat, how it understands our feelings, acknowledges our fear, and fibers our courage. We have been through so much together, and we have so much more to go. We will carry with us many memories of these pandemic days when they are long past. But one thing for sure, we will remember that we sang.
Good morning. This is Keely Schneider, and I'm a member of our congregation coming to you from my house. And Anthony asked me this morning to say a few words about music and to do a reading or a poem or something like that about music and what it brings to our lives. And as I thought about it, there were so many things that I think about when I think about how music inspires me and what it means to me, that I really couldn't just pick one thing. So instead, I decided to collect a group of quotations around music, things that at least demonstrated to me the diversity of human feelings about music and how it uplifts us and inspires us. So, with that, I will give you inspirational quotes about music this morning. Music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Plato. If I were not a physicist, I would probably be a musician. I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. Albert Einstein. Music is a language that doesn't speak particular words. It speaks in emotions. And if it's in the bones, it's in the bones. Keith Richards. Music is the shorthand of emotion. Leo Tolstoy. Music was my refuge. I could crawl into the space between the notes and curl my back to loneliness. Maya Angelou. I think music itself is healing. It's an explosive expression of humanity. It's something we are all touched by, no matter what culture we're from. Everyone loves music. Billy Joel. A man should hear a little music, read a little poetry, and see a fine picture every day of his life, in order that worldly cares may not obliterate the sense of the beautiful which God has implanted in the human soul. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Music is the language of the spirit. It opens the secret of life, bringing peace, abolishing strife. Khalil Gibran. Music is not in the notes, but in the silence in between. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Music in the soul can be heard by the universe. Lao Tzu. Music is the great uniter, an incredible force, something that people who differ on everything and anything can have in common. Sarah Dessen. Music can change the world because it can change people. Bono. My heart, which is so full to overflowing, has often been solaced and refreshed by music when sick and weary. Martin Luther. No matter how corrupt, greedy, and heartless our government, our corporations, our media, and our religious and charitable institutions may become, music will still be wonderful. Kurt Vonnegut. This will be our reply to violence, to make music more intensely, more beautifully, more devotedly than ever before. Leonard Bernstein. If music be the food of love, play on. William Shakespeare. And finally, my personal favorite this morning, music is what tells us that the human grace is greater than we realize. Napoleon Bonaparte. Thank you all for listening to a few of my favorite expressions about music. I'd now like to introduce our next song, which is called A Place of Meeting. Now, I know many of you are familiar with this particular piece. Our own Mike Matthews has composed this, and he wrote it for the Unitarian Church in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but we have now adopted it as our own, and it is so incredibly meaningful to sing Eileen Karpelis's lyrics, because she defines the very essence of the church. Now, you'll hear in this piece words about building a physical space. You'll hear words about stone and wood and really building something that is a tangible representation of the church, a place of meeting. But I think more than ever before, we are in a time where it is so important to talk about the symbolic importance of the church and to think hard about what it really means to be a church. For me, some of the most inspiring lyrics that come out of this particular piece, and I've sung it many, many times, and every time, there's something new about it. There's something really special that I can take away from it. But what I really love in this is the part where it says, "May all who enter here trust one another so surely that they may share the deep fires that burst into anger as much as the sweet spring waters that swell into laughter, the slow erosion of wounded tears as much as the soaring song." To be able to trust one another so deeply and so much that we can share our greatest sorrows and our most thrilling times. That is really what it means to me to be part of a church. So enjoy this song, "A Place of Meeting."
So let's do this. Type in the comments if you can recite the ingredients of a Big Mac. Not if you can just kind of think of them one by one, but if the jingle, 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, is lodged somewhere in your brain and pops up unbidden as soon as I ask the question. Right? A bunch of us older folks anyway. Some of you youngsters maybe haven't been around long enough to remember that particular ad campaign. Those of us who were, though, heard it constantly over a period of about 1.5 years, and it became engraved in our neural pathways, part of the permanent fixtures of our brains. Decades, or maybe less from now, when some of us are dwelling in the twilight of dementia, we will still be able to recite this sequence if prompted, because it lives not in our rational, deliberate memories, but in the place where music and poetry are stored, which is not administered by our executive intention, but rather by something more primal. Once upon a time, it was standard practice in elementary and secondary education for students to memorize and recite passages of what was considered great literature, poetry, famous speeches, Shakespeare, and scripture. This kind of rote learning often left students with phrases and random fragments littering their engraved neural pathways, but little understanding of what those passages were supposed to mean. It was an intellectually unsatisfying sort of learning. It sometimes happened that as those students grew up, they came to a belated understanding of why the Gettysburg Address was historically significant, or why Hamlet was pondering whether to be or not to be, but you couldn't count on it. Just as often they remained chaotic trivia, much like the ingredients of a Big Mac. Another place this kind of learning took place was church. Most Christian children learned to recite the Lord's Prayer well before they understood, if they ever did, what was radical and shocking about the way Jesus advised his disciples to pray. Many learned the 23rd Psalm without having any idea what the paths of righteousness might be, or why setting the table would be a good thing to do in the presence of your enemies. Maybe you used to wonder about that too. The other thing you might have been learning at the same time was hymns. Jesus loves me, this I know. All God's children got a place in the choir. He walks with me in the garden. Blessed assurance, a mighty fortress. And I promise you, enter into any group of frail, unresponsive elderly people and start singing one of these songs. It's almost magical the way their eyes brighten and they join in. Probably not because they are endorsing any theological proposition, but because they are meeting an old friend of music and words long ago engraved in their Protestant Christian neural pathways. Other traditions have other engravings. Just try to alter the songs at a Seder service. I believe that the hymns we are exposed to and sing, and the words that we learn to recite by heart because we encounter them week after week, become an important part of the furniture of our minds. Unlike ideas that we may agree with or argue about, songs and poetry enter our brains through a different door and become a spiritual resource in a way that concepts alone never can. When someone close to you dies, you don't want a rational essay on the nature of death. At least I don't. I want to sing and hear others sing the familiar hymns that have expressed the essence of my faith over the years. Often and often, it is music that overwhelms our carefully rational control and allows the tears to flow. And this is true not only for moments of sorrow, when there is rejoicing to be celebrated, or commitment to be affirmed, or evil to be denounced. There is nothing so powerful as a familiar song, or perhaps a new song that feels as if we have known it for a long time. Those neural pathways in our brain do not sit there passively empty until we decide to fill them. They are constantly absorbing the most memorable inputs from the world around us, whether that is the Big Mac jingle or the opening sequence of Gilligan's Island or How Great Thou Art or Spirit of Life. What we can decide is what we want to expose ourselves to and participate in. If the only song that you and your community ever sing together is Take Me Out to the Ball Game, that is what they will sing at your funeral because it will be the only song you know together. I think there are larger and better options. That is why it is important to have hymns and hear hymns and know hymns and sing hymns that reflect the values we choose to aspire to and teach. Those hymns are every bit as memorable and contain a far more moving message than the sales pitches that Madison Avenue would flood our minds with. As we plan the worship experience here at All Souls together, Anthony and I try to offer a creative combination of familiar and novel music that will stimulate us with new appreciation and comfort us with what is already accessible in our neural pathways as you use. We appreciate your willingness to be adventurous as well as your love of our accustomed favorites. I hope that the music of All Souls helps to fill your spirit with resources to carry you through the highs and lows you experience, and that it remains lodged in your mind and heart all the days of your life. Please join me now in singing the hymn written for our 150th anniversary, Arise, All Souls.
Hold us
poet Shelley wrote that music vibrates in the memory. May the music of this faith and of our community continue to fill your life with beauty and hope, and call us all into our larger humanity. Now we extinguish these flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, however distant, or the fires of commitment. For all these we carry in our minds and hearts until the time shall come when we are together again.
May the song of peace be yours. May the song of hope be mine. May the song of love be ours until we meet again.
Thank you for being part of our online worship today. We invite you now to take part in our virtual coffee hour by following the directions on screen or connecting through our webpage. Please join us next week when our student intern minister for the past 2 years, Rebecca Gant, will lead her final service with us here at All Souls. Also, at our Zoom check-in times on Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock and Thursday evening at 6:30, we will have the opportunity to discuss the significance of music in our own lives and what it means to us. It would be lovely to see you there. And please, stay safe and be well this week.